This week I'm going to go over some of the paintball equipment that I own as promised in last week's video. Some of you may look at this and go, it's really dated equipment and really not top end. Well, you're right on both accounts. But everything that you see here, although not a significant amount, I've gotten for under $200. Now a lot of people out there will claim to be budget paintballers, etc. But even then they're working with budgets bigger than I can actually afford. So I truly consider myself a budget paintballer. As I said, everything here under 200 bucks. Probably even less than that. I'm only guessing. I was kind of flipping through some of the stuff here and thinking of how much I paid for it. And the best number I could come up with is 200 bucks. So to start off, my markers themselves, they are older markers, but they're old for a lot of newer guys. To me, I like them, even though they're still considered old. Because when I first got into paintball, the first paintball gun I had was an old pig gun, and then followed up by a tracer. If you don't know what either of them are, hit Google up. You'll see when they came out. I got them a year or so after they both came out, so that'll give you an idea what I mean when I say old school. In any case, the first gun, the one that I originally started my collection with after I got back into paintball, was this old Spider Imagine LED. Now, it's an electronic marker. 3 different settings. It's got semi-automatic, 3 ball burst, 6 ball burst, and fully automatic, so I lied, 4 settings, sorry. It's considered an electric gun, as I said, but I wouldn't really say it's the best one to take on a speedball course or anything like that. Although a really good gun, it's not quite competition worthy to say. Now, a little history, all I play really is woods ball. I've tried X-ball or speedball, whatever you want to call it, a couple times. Didn't care for it a whole lot because the equipment I had really couldn't keep up with the other guys. So maybe once I get some better equipment and I get off the budget, I may try it again and I'll give you guys a response on that once I go back to it. So in any case, as I said, first one, the LED Spider Imagine. First thing I did when I got it, I took the internals out, replaced pretty much everything. New springs both ways, new anti-chop bolt. Okay, so I didn't replace everything. I guess that's all I replaced. And of course the feed neck. Really good gun. It's super reliable so far. I hear nightmares of people saying these things are horribly unreliable, but I can't complain. I put it through hell, still works great. The next one that I purchased was actually this, which is the sidearm I carry on scenario games. It's a little big and beefy as compared to the actual full gun, I guess you would consider, but I actually really love this handgun. I've found myself actually just carrying this out on games and not taking the markers, period. This is extremely accurate for a handgun. It's War Sensor G1. The G2, same thing. I think they make another one too. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's got a sliding action. Almost looks like a kickback sliding action. It's kind of neat, but I hear it uses a lot of air. This here, the air usage I get out of it is awesome. The accuracy is awesome. The only thing that kind of bites is you are limited to a 10-round magazine. You can purchase more of these magazines. They're still floating around, but it's easier actually to just take your tubes and pull the back out, dump your tube in, put your back on. I find it actually saves a little bit of time, so I didn't actually bother with any of the other magazines. Holster was picked up right along with the gun. It worked out well. The gun I got after that one was the second Spider Imagine. I was trying to suck my wife into playing paintball with me, so I just picked up another cheapy gun. The Spider Imagine, not as good as the Spider Imagine LED by any means. This only has the 3 modes. It's semi-automatic, 3 ball burst, and fully automatic. I find it uses a lot more air. It's not near as accurate. Even with the switch and barrels, I find this one kind of oblogs balls all really bad. I do find it breaks down a little bit. I've had to replace several parts in it. As soon as I got that, same thing as this one, put the anti-chop bolt in it, replaced all the springs, had to replace the cup seal. I haven't gotten myself a clamping feed neck for that one just of yet because I'm still debating whether I'm going to keep it or not. The good thing about both these guns that I like personally, coming from my old pig gun, is the outside velocity adjusters. I know that's pretty standard now, but when I had to do it back in the day, you had to have an Allen key about this long and reach down through the barrel and do it, or you had to pull your whole gun apart to do it. After all this, of course, I got the pod pack of 3 pods, nothing too fancy there. Both face masks, this is just your regular JT Elite, and my Z-Liter mask over there. I actually prefer the Z-Liter mask. When they were first released, for the first 3 years, they had a bad problem with the visors in them actually breaking, but if you can actually latch on to a visor after that, you can actually figure them out because there's a stamp up here in the corner. The ones previous did not have the stamp up in the corner. The shattering whole plastic into your eyes thing was solved after that, and they're actually a really great mask, great field of vision. The only thing is, no visor, so you do happen to get a lot of sun in your eyes, but where I play a lot of woods ball under the canopy, it's never seemed to be a problem. After the equipment there, I purchased a remote feed, or sorry, not a remote feed, a remote airline for my guns. This is the G7, which I picked up off eBay there. Fairly inexpensive, great remote coil, it's good for 4,500 pounds, it has the slide check on it. The only thing that I do not like about this is there is a ton of CO2 left in your line after you shut the tank off. So you screw this down onto the tank, of course. So this goes down your tank, pop your tank open, fills your line, connect into your gun. Now, once you disconnect from the gun, you only do lose a little bit with the slide check after disconnected from your gun, but once you want to drain this off, they actually tell you to shut your tank off and then just discharge the air. And it seemed like there was a lot of air coming out of it, so out of giggles, I shut the tank off, rehooked it back up to the gun, and shot paintballs, and I was able to get 65 to 67 shots before the line itself ran out of air. So, to me, that's not the best the best air consumption on the planet. But, you know what? It does its purpose. If you're playing long scenario games, which I try to get into there once, twice a year, and you just want to disconnect your gun without unscrewing the tank, if you happen to carry it in the pod pack, something like that, you just pop it off, hook your line up into a little clip on your side, something like that, and you can set your gun down. It's not too bad. So for that, it's great. If you're looking for air conservation, it's really not that great. Once you actually go to pull it off your bottle, you actually end up losing more air. So once I got the remote line and all this junk here, of course, on the very end you see a couple hoppers there. They're all gravity fed minus the V-Loader Quantum. And just a word of warning to anyone that's thinking to pick one of these things up for any reason, don't. This is probably the worst hopper I've ever seen on the planet. I had to pull it apart and do modifications just so I could get it above about 4 balls a second. My gravity hoppers were doing much better. This came free when I picked up one of the guns. That's the only reason I have it. I had heard before I even got it that it was horrible, but I figured, you know what, I like to tinker and see what I could do with it. It was a complete waste of time. Avoid the Quantum View Loader at all costs if you can. Just grab yourself a gravity hopper. Any cheap gravity hopper feeds at the same rate. You can actually get better gravity hoppers like the Proto or something like that that has even better feed rates than that thing. So everything you see here, including the 3 CO2 tanks on the end, actually, there's one CO2 tank on the very end, not the Pure Energy, but the one next to it. It actually came off my old pig gun. I guess they were called War Pig guns. Once again, Google. It's the old style steel tanks that I've just been kind of keeping and kicking around, kind of memories of long forgotten times ago. So if there's anything here you guys want to see a little more info on, please just shoot me a comment message and I'll go into it in more detail. There's all kinds of videos floating around YouTube and other sources on both these guns that can probably describe it much better than I can, but if you do have a question specifically that's not covered anywhere else, please just shoot me a comment. I'll see what I can do for you. Same thing on the Mass or the War Sensor G1. Just a note on the War Sensor, you can no longer purchase War Sensor guns new from War Sensor themselves. There's still a few outlets that have overstock that they're trying to clear out and whatnot. If you can get one, I highly recommend latching onto one for a sidearm because they are just absolutely phenomenal. I like them better than the Tiberius and a few other recent handguns. Don't get me wrong, those are great guns, but I still would prefer this, even though it is a little heavier. If you can find one and you have the money and it's not too expensive, definitely latch onto one. You will not be disappointed. It's got great air consumption and huge accuracy considering the size of the gun itself and the actual barrel size inside it. Other than that, like I said, if you have questions, shoot me a comment. Otherwise, we'll see you next week and whatever I happen to talk about then.